So to let you guys know, because I think it leaked on Reddit because it said coming in February, we're not quite ready to have the Carrack in the initial 3.8 release, but it will be in a subsequent 3.8 release. So it's not waiting till 3.9. So I think in February it should be done, and that's mostly because we still have some sort of LED stuff to do and some damage stuff and some of the finishing touches of the tech stuff. All right, so let's
get dressed.
Get dressed, put a jacket on. So it's the beginning of we're still working on some of our, but ultimately there'll be a lot more sort of physical inventory on what you're going to use, and you'll sort of see that why it comes into effect later on in the demo. And let's just do a little bit of a tour, maybe go off to the mess, grab a bit of morning coffee. Here's a little cool table. If you're bored on a long journey, exploring the frontiers. There's a mess on the other side of the living quarters. And then window maybe. Yeah, we can't see the plan out of the window there, right?
It's on
the other side. All right, let's have a little cup of coffee.
So as you start seeing here, we are rolling out the new building blocks in the UI. This has been a large initiative on our team to basically empower our developers to actually use it when they're baking things. And versus it being bottlenecked by our previous smaller UI team.
All right, that's the upper bridge in the Carrack, and see that? And through there, I think, is the drone room down on the left-hand side, I believe.
Yep.
And here is the Carrack hangar bay. I mean, the Pisces hangar bay. Carrack hangar bay. And in the back, there's the 2 rear turrets, and then also the engine room here, which is another one of our players. So Glenn's going to ask him to open the hangar for him when he gets into the Pisces. But of course, since our back-end FOIP service decided to die, and our back, not a bad idea to take a pour. Could come in handy later in the mission. All right, let's go in the Pisces, Glenn. Pisces. Joe's going to come with us so he can take he'll take the ship back to the Carrack after we've gotten down there, and they'll rendezvous and meet with us later.
Okay. Aerospace, all systems on.
Let's hopefully. Can we get player 2 on my screen left, please? There you go. Slow on our things. Okay. Back to player 1. Can I get player 1 back on the main screen, please? Player 1, main screen, thank you. Okay, that's player 1 on the screen right, main screen, please. Sorry about this. We had this going before. I don't know what's happening. Okay, there we go. All right, Glenn. Should you put, let's go exterior and then also get your landing gear back up. So you can see our pretty landing gear going up. Go underneath it. Okay, well, okay, that's fine. All right. And let's set a course to Microtech.
Quantum drive is now on.
The right screen is. Player 3, right screen.
Okay, then kill the right screen. Kill the right screen, please. The very right screen. Why is there off? Okay, here we are. Coming out. No. I know. Player 1, the center screen. Player 1 should be the center screen. This whole demo, please. Okay.
So we introduced space stations around orbit, around the planets. They will have hubs and basically other shops and all of that. So that will roll out with 3.8. So every planet, Lorville, ArcCorp, Microtech, and then obviously we have Port Alisar.
Yeah, and this is Port Tresla, which is the orbital station around Microtech.
A mountain casts like long, beautiful shadows across the landscape.
Down over the top. You know,
And because
like,
Microtech is
what he's talking
largely snow, this is kind of important, right? Another principle of V4 is we want to dramatically reduce the amount of biome tiling. So what we want to do is that it should be a one-to-one. So what you see in space is what you see on ground. The type of popping, crossfading, we want to get rid of that completely. So it should be a seamless transition. Also here, we knew it was going to do a cold planet. We thought it'd be really good to have a frozen ocean. So this was a brand new shader that we put into development. And what we have right now is it's physicalized, so we can walk and drive on it. Internally, we're just in love with this technology. It empowers the art team to be able to just create amazing artwork. Yeah.
So one of the things that we've added is basically, and this will tie again into the actor system that we show off later, but the planet, we call it the room system basically, and the room system allows us to have humidity.
But it can be a planet system,
yes,
or
but it's a planet system.
Basically an environment container.
So it allows
yeah, and it will also affect things like the contrails and the effects, and it's all tied in, which later on today we'll show more of. The other thing that we can talk about, other than how beautiful Planet V4 looks, also the fact that, like, I don't know if you noticed, but it's like you don't see repetition of biomes, you don't see, I mean, it just seamlessly from the outside in, it's just smooth, it's pretty awesome. There's some talks today that will talk about the graphics tech behind it and also just how they created the stuff. And as we're flying here, one other thing I want to point out, which is not necessarily the Planetech V4, but it's we've been sort of working on the flight experience, and that's an ongoing project for the combat and the flight experience. But one thing that we'll roll out in 3.8 is what we call the look-ahead setup for the cockpit. So if Glenn is flying around here, what we do is we actually take notice of where the velocity vector of the ship is going to be, where the horizon line, if you're on a planetary body, if in space, obviously you wouldn't worry about that, and also if you had a selected target, and the view basically gets sort of biased towards that. And so as you're flying around, you'll feel the cockpit move around you, and it's quite similar if you see people fly, like Tarada does, you know, really cool flying, and he's got head tracking on, right? And you can see pilots generally look where they're going, and also if you're a racing car driver, you look where you're going. And so that's kind of the idea here, rather than having a very static, fixed view. You can, of course, turn it off if you don't like it, but we think it gives a much more fluid experience. We've also been working on the chase camera stuff, so there'll be more fluid vehicular chase camera. You'll see it here, you'll see it a bit later on. Generally that's sort of stuff that we're continually working.
A lot of love went into these pine trees. We have a lot of pine trees, we have a lot of very good artists working on them, but the objects are being distributed and being informed by the terrain. So if you actually look at where those pine trees are, they're distributed real time. Previously we was doing pre-baked masks, and that's where you see these pine trees being distributed into the valleys. It's very interesting. Also, another interesting thing is this planet data is also being utilized for things like game logic, VFX, things like that.
Yeah, well, the VFX is determined by the biome and the environmental data, so you'll get mists rolling over mountains.
Correct.
Depending on the atmosphere and the biome data. So it's all very procedural.
Okay, so we're coming into the outer districts of New Babbage here. One of the most important things we did when we started this landing zone is we wanted to learn from the experience of creating Lorville, Area 18. So as we fly over, we wanted to remove these big walls we had to previously build around these landing zones. So when you look down there, you can land there. A lot of you asked me previously, is like, why can't we land there? So that's been a huge initiative. Yeah.
Well, we're also for 3.8 significantly improving the no-fly zone and how you visualize into it. So we won't have like this big ugly mesh that just gets in the way and blows you up. So I think that will help in most locations. But yeah, you can definitely see the sort of learning that's gone over multiple landing zones coming to fruition in New Babbage, which to me feels like probably the best of our sort of cityscape so far.
Yes, we're very proud of it internally. Here you can see one of the signature buildings of New Babbage. This is what we're calling the Aspire Grand. Good job, Glenn.
See if we can get through that. Fancy dancy.
Woohoo! One
And
interesting.
the Aspire Grand is probably where, if you were starting on New Babbage, it'd be
Yes.
one of the places you would have your hab.
I've got a slide to show you later on today. What the view out of that's where the hab's going to be. So if you want your home base or your hab to be on New Babbage, that's where it's going to be.
Yeah, and we will, not necessarily with 3.8, but we're going to start transitioning next year towards having people start on the various planets versus start on Port Olisar. So you sort of will choose your home base, whether it would be Hurston or Microtech or Crusader, or Area or Arccorp, and then that would be sort of your starting base in terms of playing the game.
And we also understand that you want to get in and out very quickly, so again, that's why we're putting habs in the space stations around, so then you can stay there, you can get in and out very quickly.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. So in spaceports, we will have like motels in airports. We'll have that as an option when you land or not, and then also you can have your sort of permanent apartment in the city, so to speak, and you just pick where it is. So I think we're just heading now to the kind of New Babbage interstellar spaceport, which is actually not, it's across the frozen lake or
It's
ocean.
across the lake. One
Yeah.
interesting thing is when we were designing New Babbage is we actually geographically scouted where they would build a landing zone. So we built it around this nice water feature.
You might have a free spot for your vehicle. Wait one moment while I double check.
Glenn, you didn't ask to land, did you? What was that? I heard.
Yeah, she's just greeting me.
What's that?
She's greeting me.
Oh, she's greeting you. Okay, right. Right, and this is pretty. I mean, the New Babbage spaceport has a lot of hangars and.
It has twice the capacity of previous spaceports, and Chris laid down the challenge, said, Ian, let's try building a spaceport in the side of a mountain, and we were like, okay, Chris, let's give it a try.
Oh, and to show off those nice Microsoft mounts.
Here we are. One space, as promised.
So we've been working on our comms calls internally to get what we would consider a gold standard on that, and then we will slowly roll that out to every AI.
Yeah, and then we still, we still have a little on the interaction in terms of requesting it and stuff like that. But yeah, let's head in. Come on, Glenn. You can do it. So this is just, as it touches down, they need to kill the very far right screen, keep the middle screen.
What?
Right. And there's, you can see the AI, and this is just a small landing pad, right?
This is a small
So this is
hangar.
only a small one, just to let you guys know. I think we have small, medium, large, and
Extra
extra
large.
large. So that's just to give you an idea of scale, which I think one of the things that's great with Star Citizen. Okay, and let's go and find Rob, who's gone ahead of time and gotten us a Microtech Science coat and a fake ID. It's just like going out drinking when you're 16.
That was.
I never did that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So just one thing to note on 3.8. So I'm not
Babbage.
sure I mentioned this, but Microtech
Yeah.
will be there. And actually, when we roll out better, but the workflow is much better because we basically redid everything. It took us about 2 years and 2 months, which is a really good sign for the future and creating more content. But in 3.8, we will have Microtech, but New Babbage itself won't be available as
And the moons.
internally.
Yeah.
It will be there externally, and then in 3.9, the full of New Babbage, the VoIP service, which is what sends the voice and also the animation face data, has been really finicky on our server here. So
Innovative creativity.
So as Chris mentioned, New Babbage is going to be our first landing zone where we're not building it in the utilitarian art style. Previously, we've made things like outposts in the high-tech art style, but this is our first opportunity to build a landing zone from scratch. So what you're seeing here is a kind of a glimpse at what the inside of New Babbage will feel like.
and I think we get to New Babbage via that hyperloop. Like if you look, Glenn,
Yeah.
if you look in the
Yes.
those lines you see there are the hyperloop, right?
Yeah.
Hi. Is there something I can help you with?
So this is our Cortina-like Microtech
Yes.
The greeter.
greeter.
Here's a funny joke. What do you call a mobile risk computational unit that is completely made out of helium? Moby gas. Can I help you with anything else?
Are there more jokes? I think there are, yeah.
All of them.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, let's go.
All right,
You
Glenn.
can thank Dave
Can I help you with anything
Haddock
else?
and the writing team for that, right?
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
All right. It was nice chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your visit.
Okay, so let's head to meet up Rob and get our fake ID and lab coat.
So this is how you would access the garages that we have, so you can drive around the city and drive around the planet.
Over here. Alright. You must be Glenn.
I am.
I think you'll find everything you're after just over there. Ooh, over there. Alright, let's get a lab coat. So, it's early days yet, but the idea is that all the outfits, like the cloth outfits you have, will be physicalized. We'll have some stuff we'll show a little later. So we have the sort of new cloth stuff, wave it around. And so we're moving towards having everything physicalized. So if you're flying somewhere, and you'll see this why it's important in the evening demo is, make sure you're equipping yourself correctly.
Yes.
Have you got the right clothes, the right suits, armor, and we're also going to be very focused on giving you positive and negative reasons. So like, if you have a big armored suit, that's not something you can sit down and say, fly a fighter with or something,
Correct.
but it may be what you need. And this is sort of an example of a longer term, multi-stage mission, not in 3A, but later on, that
Yes.
we're building, so there will be challenges that are sort of you versus, AI environmental challenges versus just also the general, PvP emergent gameplay that can happen. Okay, hopefully that works. Oh, all right, we're through. It's the same with elevators the world over. Just wait for them. And then there they are. Okay, Microtech, home of the Moby Glass. And again, see, no more of the silly button with the interaction on. You're actually interacting straight with panels. And that is, again, as Todd was saying, part of what the building block UI is going to allow us to embed UI and interactions much easier in the game. So we're up on the rooftop shuttle area. And so one thing that we'll get into later, but we have the player status system is now extending beyond oxygen into temperature. As you can see that it's cold. I don't know if you noticed, but we are actually have breath coming out of our mouth.
Did not work.
And if you want to look around your third person, we can sort of see you breathing, I guess.
So another big thing that was just seen was basically AI transitioning from one zone.
Wearing his nice warm. All right, let's get on, Glenn. But yeah, so like Todd was saying, it's early stages yet, but we have AI transitioning between zones and grids, nav meshes. So theoretically, you can have an AI come fly, a whole group of AI fly in, land, a whole bunch of troops get out, say the back of a cutlass as reinforcements.
Correct.
In a combat and you fight, which is something we haven't been able to do up to date. So it's really quite cool. And this is actually an AI flown ship that's taking us on a shuttle towards a research facility. Need to get that.
Can we get the quadrant?
Right, and by the way, Glenn is actually on a AI flown ship here. So, and that is something longer term that we're going to be working on, which is AI doing things like taking you a shuttle from a space station down to the ground, or various locations that you could go to without having to fly to yourself. So think of it as a bigger version of the transit system. And here's one of the things that I think Ian's talked about, we've talked about, is that we want to increase our range of, we have outposts, but they're pretty small. And we want to have points of interest that you would have in various planets or moons that you can have mission content in, things to do. And this is sort of this is a sort of first prototype of that.
Yeah, so basically multiple entries, multiple exits. Obviously with Outpost, you got one way in, one way out. So for us, from a design standpoint, this allows us to build these in a modular way so that we can have different entrances, different exits, different room layouts, different mission content associated with it. From there, then we start looking towards towns and villages, and then obviously we have our main cities.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a prototype, first version of a sort of multi-part mission that we've discussed and thinking about doing in the longer term, not 3.8 obviously, but 3.9 or on beyond that. Of course, it's cold here in Microtech.
So you'll see, now that we've entered into the room, the temperature that the character feels changes, and he actually starts returning back to normal.
All right. So hopefully our trusty ID card still works. I'm willing to say it does. And we take a look out the side, Glenn, out the window a bit, when you out the window out here. So one other thing, which we're going to get into a little further, but if we actually take a look outside, the other thing that we're showing here is dynamic weather.
Yes.
And so actually there is a ground snowstorm blowing in. Can you look out the window a little bit, Glenn? Or not? Glenn,
can you look out the window?
Just take a look out the window quickly. So if you take a look, if we go take a look out here, it's where the trees. Go to the left a little bit. Should be, I think. There, so you can see. So, all right, we carry on. So there's a storm blowing in right now. Come to that in a bit better. But the weather simulation takes into account the humidity, the wind,
temperature. Yes,
right?
All of that.
And it is dynamic. So it's set up. So not going to have. We've got a couple elements still to come on the fully dynamic planetary weather, which would be volumetric planetary crowds and volumetric ground fog. We have a large amount of the pieces in place for our weather sims, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's carry on with our mission. So we're gonna go look for the data center to try and steal the algorithm.
So it says it in the demo, or basically in the mission briefing, that you're looking for server number 5. So we'll be looking around and getting closer and working our way over there.
And try not to be too conspicuous. And the idea with these kind of missions in the longer term is to have the ability to do like stealth gameplay instead of combat gameplay, so, solve some puzzles, yes. So it's not just going to be about shooting people all the time.
Well, and it's something that Tony and you and I have talked about a long time ago, which is basically breadcrumbs as well, so it opens up to other aspects.
So we want a sort of combination of sort of the procedural dynamic stuff that would be generated by the universe simulation that Tony was showing earlier, plus some more crafted, multi-stage, kind of more narrative missions, and they all get mixed in to give you a really sort of nice flavor and variety of things to do. So like we need to figure out a good way. We're going to we kind of know a good way, but as a game player, you would actually have to suss this out. So we're going to go back here in the maintenance area. And there we go. Still great. Very quiet, great.
Yes. In the future, obviously, the AI will have certain stims that they can react to, and you know, audio is one of them. Having certain objects that the player places around would be another way to distract AI.
And then, you know, again, there was things like we took the, Glenn's going to take his pour. There's like locks on the multi-tool, and we can pretend we're going to pour them off, or not. There you go. But yeah, this is the idea. Is, you know, like the FPS, like the multi-tool has different modes. Cutting, could be mining, could be welding, repairing. In this particular case, we're just going to cut the 4 kind of hinges, locks off, so we can take the grate open and get through it. And again, this is, you know, I think we've talked a little bit about, you know, especially with something like whether the weather or the temperature, it's about taking like the physical inventory, taking the things you need. So do I need a tool to go and do something? Do I need to have an outfit that will keep me warm, or you know, protect me from fire?
And I mean, I think even with our combat and everything like that, we want people to actually think about what they need to do first.
That's the, you know, as you guys know, there's an inventory. There's a personal inner thought system, which is Richard is the personal inner thought with 3.8 or 3.9. 3.9. So the personal, so yeah, that's sort of work in progress. But the personal inner thought is in 3.9, which allows you to access a whole bunch of sort of actions or interactions that are sort of on you or would be your thoughts. And so that's a very early version that obviously for some reason is bugged, but we weren't actually meant to end up triggering that.
So we're looking for a data card.
And we're going to steal some data. Oh, there's a guard on that side. Just make sure you stay out of that way, Glenn. There you go. Okay, come over here. There we go. Take the data card.
You can take that one, or I think he's gonna, he clocked one on the desk, I think.
Okay. It was risky. Okay, quick. All right, back. There we go. And then maybe under here to get to the other side. And by the way, one of the reasons why, yeah, there you go. One of the reasons, obviously, why Microtech, they like this planet and it being cold is to essentially cool all their, you know,
the server farms.
And server farms, yeah.
Yes.
It's like a big Microsoft. All right, let's try to get some data. And again, this is building block UI, right?
Yes.
So that's all put together by a designer fairly quickly without having to have Flash programmers or... Okay. Get it? Let's get out of here with our ill-gotten gains. Oops. Can't really go that way.
Yeah.
All right, let's... All right, I don't know. This looks all right. Ooh, all right, Glenn. Just pretend that you're blending in. Okay.
You mind telling us what the hell's going on? Hey, talking to you! This is our project. You can't just freeze us out like this.
Right. Ooh, jeez. That was close. You almost put it on top of his. Okay. Oops, a daisy. I think we better get out of here, Glenn.
Yeah. So we have non-lethal takedowns now.
Okay, let's get out. Yeah, it's part of that. So melee combat does ship with 3.8, and it's a lot more than just that. But it's non-lethal takedowns. You'll be able to fight
To knock people out.
knock people out, get into fisticuffs. There's a whole sort of different levels of punch, left, right, block, left, right. It's all actually physically based. So we've grabbed something kind of warm, but we're not really ready to it. We've actually stashed a getaway environment suit. And Richard Trier, I want to bring up to the stage. So Richard's the lead designer on our actor feature team, and I'd like him to talk a little about what is happening right here.
Wind speed, humidity, and it basically amalgamates all of that into what you're seeing on the HUD at the moment, which is the apparent temperature. So the apparent temperature actually comes in and is part of our player status system. And the player status system is where you start to feel these environments, and the actual environments start to play into the gameplay. So you can see here that actually the physicalized wind, he's actually leaning into the wind, he's putting his hand up to try and shield himself, but he's not wearing the correct attire. So he's not wearing the correct equipment, because he's just basically grabbed the clothes and jumped outside. And as you can see, it's really cold. So he's starting to shiver.
A bottom side here, it is.
Yeah, it's like,
minus
as well as other actor statuses as well. But you can see here, he's starting to see the other value on here that you see is the apparent temperature, but the
accumulation on the jacket that he wore. You notice, you go back and look at what it was when he got it and what it is now. And with that, accumulation is meant to be for things like snow, rain, dust, dirt, and that's something that we're looking to have in 3.9.
And
So you really feel
that
the
depends on
environment.
the biome, basically your environment. So
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it'll build up over time.
Fill up. So we better get a warm suit on because otherwise we're gonna essentially pass out and then
So
die.
this suit is actually cold, so hopefully when Glenn puts it on, you'll see actually that it's actually frosted, so you can see your actor's actually shivering here as he's putting it on. And this suit is the Caldera suit that we revealed in the character archetype talk, and this is an environment suit that's built for these extreme climates. He's really cold. He's really cold. And as your suit kicks in, this suit has an operating range that can actually survive these temperatures.
So yeah, and if we go, yeah, and you'll see it now because the same effects that we saw on the windshield, you definitely see
Yeah. So
in
think of it like your car.
so a visor. You're going to see because it's a big winter storm, snow, slush. That's warm in here as it's going out though. It's going to start to get slush, and what we're going to see is is tough. And then I think the other person that I'd like to bring up is Mike Snowden, who's has been our first example. So I don't know if you want to talk about some of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so this is all, the main thing about these effects is they're completely data-driven, so I'll put a lot of time into creating these rule sets. The way that we author the effects is completely different to anything we've done before, because we know that we can make beautiful looking storm effects, but the really cool thing about this, no pun intended, is that it's literally the data that the planet gives us, so this ties in with the Planetech V4,
Yeah.
which obviously we're showing off today. It ties in with all the... Yep.
And so it's systemic and it's
Yeah, I mean,
and it'll be affected by time of day and other things. so it's gonna be
absolutely,
great.
yeah. I mean, so the rule sets are things like temperature, even elevation, wind strength, wind direction, even angle. There's a lot of complexity in the rule set that makes it really easy actually for us in the long term.
Snow, our visor is getting, it's like you would be, in a snowstorm if you're
Absolutely.
skiing or out there. So we stashed the suit. We actually had a rover that we've stashed that
Yeah.
goes in our carrack.
So
we're looking for right now.
One of the things before we go on too far, the other thing is with the armors, you will run into planets that are outside your temperature range, and so you might last there for 15 minutes, but obviously we want to make sure that it's very lucrative for you to be able to, go in there and risk reward gameplay for it.
Yeah, so be equipped. That's why you would have a big ship and buy different armor and store it. Okay, so here's our rover, which we've hidden with a little top, and this is going to be a much more larger example of the cloth interaction
yeah.
system. So, all right, Glenn, let's get the top off and get into the rover. Okay, we can drop it now. And again, that's an example of all the physics stuff coming together, the cloth interacting, the wind's blowing it.
And the wind itself here, one thing I wanted to call out is that the wind is different strengths depending on where you are. So if you're down in the tree line or in the troughs, the wind is a lot slower. And then as you get more exposed, that wind comes out. So it really is a dynamic environment.
And as you see, as we get into here now, the temperatures come up, the water's evaporating from our visor, and we have a clearer view.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the outside of the rover now will have the effect on its canopy.
Yep.
All right, let's let Sam know that she needs to pick us up. And zoom to the right place, which doesn't actually do the server
It hasn't streamed
check
yet.
right. So it hasn't streamed, and it's actually, you are seeing some of the stuff because this is in server OCS, so we don't have everything all the time now. So when things go in and out, we've still got edge cases, and that's one of the issues that we have to fix before server OCS happens, but it'll be fine. So let's.
Also, this is precarious, so make sure you get a little
Yeah.
noisy for Glenn. Oh,
All right.
oh,
Ooh, yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
see the fog starting to thin out now as we're going a little further down. That's
Yeah. So,
again.
like as we're further down, it's not quite as thick. The weather is not quite as intense. I know he's scaring the shit out of me.
There he goes.
Show off, Glenn. Hey.
Good job, Glenn.
Yeah. I remember when it was almost impossible to get a rover into a ship, but now we can do it. It's
Yeah.
great. And here's an example of, so we're talking about storage. So these are actually meant to be for suit storage. Still kind of early days on the stuff, so it's a bit wonky, but we put our suit in there. We need it. So the idea is that you would have suits and stuff that you would store depending on what you would need on different planets. Oops, hang on. We got a crime stat, and I think someone's shooting us from behind.
Yeah, I got a pretty hefty crime stat. We're gonna have to get out of there.
We're being tailed. Get to the turret.
All right, come on.
So this is our first iteration of ship AI in atmosphere.
Yeah. So we are being tailed by Microtech Security because they figured out that we've stolen the data and we're making a getaway. There we go. All right, come on. To our little turret. There we go. Okay, come on, let's get rid of it. Get him. Come on. Go up. How come it's quicker?
Hey, Sam, why don't you bank?
Alright, one more. Okay, come on, let's get him.
Come on, Glenn.
Hey!
Hey!
We're gonna have to wait till.
You do a sideways, Glenn. It's kind of cool too. Just go to the sort of side and around, get like side.
Glenn.
Yeah,
Side.
he's got it. He heard me. See the beauty. Microtech's very pretty. All right. So when do we get the mission update?
QT.
Oh, we're Q2? Okay.
Or
Yeah, you can see that those are trees down there, those dots. That's cool. So okay, so now we're going to QT, right?
yeah.
Okay, let's get going.
She's having trouble with the HUD.
It's a what?
She's having trouble with the HUD.
Okay.
Just get up, and then.
Yeah.
No,
once
no.
I get out of atmosphere, it should
Yeah.
help. I hope.
It says flight systems damaged.
Right, but the
Yeah.
attenuated panel.
I wonder what's happened on that one.
Sam, can you hit B and do it? Can you hit B and do it?
Yeah, I think I can find it with B, hopefully. It was quite a while ago, wasn't it? Hey.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, so fucking, we gotta.
I don't know what
that
happened.
whole we gotta get the nav.
Yeah.
It's fucking, that whole thing drives me nuts. Okay. All right. Do we have the mission now to go to planet?
Should be. Should be coming.
Okay. So when's it come? You don't need to rush, by the way, Glenn. But yeah. So should we get the mission now? What's that?
You should see it up top.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it.
Hey, Glenn, can you check your
Mission status? You should have had the update for where to, but I'm not sure if you saw it. Yeah, delivered to Ruin Station. There you go. So, I told you we had the update of the mission. I guess we just missed it. Anyway, we got the data. We've now told where we got to go. We got to go to Ruin Station in. There we go. So here we go. Go exterior, Glenn. Exterior. There you go. Show it off. There you go. And this is in the volumetric cloud, the
Yes.
space cloud tech that we have. Same stuff that we're using for Squadron 42 for the coil, but as you can see, usable everywhere else. It's completely volumetric lit in, and it's beautiful. And here we're at the jump point to the pyro system. Now, you don't necessarily need infrastructure for jump points, but the more traveled ones are the ones that used to be traveled, which pyro used to be, but not particularly anymore, have what we call jump rings around them, and they help stabilize the jump point to make for a smoother jump. If you don't have one, then it's more difficult, and the entrance is harder and difficult. But sometimes you may want to try a sort of side jump point to get into a system, like if you're a smuggler, because the main ones would be more, essentially, they are like a checkpoint. It's like going through a border patrol or something.
It is basically a port. So when we're building the solar system, one of the things that we think about are entrances for obviously economy reasons, and you saw that with Tony Z's talk of way to interject new things into the solar system. So around the Stanton jump points, the three major ones, we will have a
regulated system
yes.
that once they strip mined it out, no one goes there anymore, and it's fallen sort of into a lawless state.
Yes.
And so this is not really this isn't a very often traveled jump point, but we're going to take it because that's where we have to go to head to Pyro Station. So as you can see, the jump ring, which is jump to Pyro System. And this is essentially sort of the infrastructure you occasionally would, you can have around. Some places would have bigger stations, but as I said, the Pyro route isn't a very particularly well-traveled one.
But also with this, I guess with the cloud tech, you see the possibilities of us going in and mining that, and then it affecting your radar, it being booby-trapped, all these kind of gameplay possibilities, I feel, open up with these unique points of interest.
Do you guys think we should open?
Yes.
I think we should go. Let's do it. That's actually a super cool view. You see that one?
Oh yeah.
How good that is. That looks awesome.
Yeah. All three of them.
Okay. So going through a wormhole is a little bit like riding the rapids. You don't really have much. You have lateral control,
but it's
a little bit of forward, but you're
current.
being pushed on a current,
Yeah.
and you've got to keep inside the boundaries of the wormhole. And actually, if Sam gets a little close, you'll sort of see interference on his screens. And of course, Stanton's just going away in the background, and Pyro's coming in here. Yeah, and you can see there's actually a current that we put in the wormholes, and you sort of see the particles that are giving you the idea of where the centerline current is. And you have to anticipate to keep on the course, because if you don't, when you go off and you go into the boundaries of the wormhole, you could end up just being spat out in just space in the middle of nowhere, or severely damaged. Okay, so we are now in the Pyro system, and we streamed out Stanton as we were traveling and streamed in Pyro. The other side, by the way, has got that awesome light on the side. Yeah.
Set a route to the ruin station, Sam. There we go.
There
All right, Ian. Hit it.